So I've been away for like almost 2 weeks on vacation with my family, and I'm back, and I'm very excited to talk about the Grunta Stampede. I've been getting a lot of requests for this lately, and I sort of looked at it before, and I was like, okay, you know, sure, it's not really going to be my thing, but people have been asking me about it, so let's talk about it. But first, of course, I'd like to thank all my patrons, as well as Baron of Dice for supporting the channel, and Barian for providing logos and art and stuff for the channel. Excellent. If you're going to buy dice, you might as well buy them from Baron of Dice, and if you're going to do that, you might as well use code MDG at checkout. The best way for you to support the channel is through Patreon. If you like what I do, if you want to see me do more of it, I'll probably do it anyway. I'll probably keep making it anyway. So, you do you. Okay, so let's have a look here. Army of Renowned, Krazog's Grunta Stampede. Okay, so the first thing that's really important to remember for the Army of Renown is that we're not using any of the Ironjaw rules. So we're not using Mighty Destroyers, and we're not using the Ironjaw's Wa. All of those things are completely replaced, and same with the Artifacts of Power. Essentially, you can play this Army of Renown with only the rules that we're about to review and the War Scrolls from the units. But not every unit. You can only use the Tusk Boss on Ma Grunta, the Hacken Crew, and the Ma Grunta Gougers and Gore Gruntas, and you can't use any regiments of Renown. So there's only 4 units that are available to you: Big Pigs and Little Pigs. So let's check out the, so right off the rip, right, it's like no wizards, no priests, right? No wizards, no priests. This is going to be really rough with artifacts or with manifestations because they're running around everywhere. So if you're going to play this army, that's something that you have to think about. One of the ways that you can deal with manifestations is with places of power. Don't forget that if you are a non-wizard, non-priest hero, when you activate a place of power, you can unbind. So you can, I'm pretty sure you can banish. Now that I'm actually saying it out loud, I think you can. On if it's your turn. I think if you activate a place of power, you get like the ability to banish as well as unbind, but I don't think you can do that on your opponent's turn. I'd have to double check this. So if you could double check this and throw it in the comments below, or if you could correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding of the rules, that would be very great. So please let me know in the comments below. But regardless, it's going to be difficult to deal with manifestations, and manifestations are a big part of what we're doing right now in this edition. So just something to keep in mind. Every army, every list has its weakness, right? So this is just immediately going to be one of the weaknesses of this Army of Renown. Okay, so let's check out the battle traits. So we have a Grunta Wa. Remember, we do not have the Ironjaw's Wa, so this is once per battle for your entire army in your charge phase. It works similar to the Ironjaw's Wa in that you have to pick a Grunta Stampede hero to be the target, and then for the rest of the turn, the following effects apply to friendly Grunta Stampede units while they're holding within 18 inches of the target. This is exactly like the Ironjaw's Wa, right? Like you pick a hero, and then everybody wholly within 18 inches of that hero can reroll charge rolls for that unit. So that's pretty strong. It means that, you know, you're probably getting in when, you know, if you need to get in, and you add one to the attack characteristic of those units: Ma, Grunta, Trotter. So this is the little pig's hooves, which are not like good, like they're not very good attacks. I'm just gonna pull up my my faction pack here, my War Clans faction pack, just to make sure that I'm hitting everything properly on my other monitor here. But yeah, the Trotters are not like, so this like rerolling charges is pretty significant. I would actually say that rerolling charges is probably maybe, I don't know if it's better than the actual, than like the proper Ironjaw's Wa, but rerolling charges is pretty strong. But adding attacks to the Trotters is like whatever. Like for example, the Tusk Boss has 4 attacks, so this is going to now be 5 attacks, 5s to hit, 2s to wound with no rend. So I mean, if you're throwing a bunch of them, right, because it'll work for every unit. So if you have like 3 or 4 Gruntas or Big Pigs, because all the Big Pigs have the Trotters, so you'll be adding like 3 or 4 attacks. The damage is D3, but it has no rend, so you know, it's the Ironjaw's Wa is not super impactful. The Grunta Wa, I think, is more impactful because of the reroll charges. That's really what it is. And then the third ability here is roll a d6 instead of a d3 when determining the amount of mortal damage inflicted by Gore Grunta Charge ability on those units. So if you remember the Gore Grunta Charge, this is only for the like the little pigs, right? So the big pigs are going to get that +1 trotters, and then the Gore Gruntas are going to get a d6 for damage. So remember, this ability is, you know, it's a 2-up d3 is essentially what it is when they charge in, right? If this unit charged, pick a unit within 1 inch and then 2-up d3. So what it's saying is, actually, I don't understand how this is supposed to work. Do you roll a d6 and on a 2-up? That must be it. Nope. Interesting. Roll a d6 instead of a d3 when determining the amount of mortal damage inflicted by the Gore Grunta Charge ability on those units. But the Gore Grunta Charge ability says roll a d3 and on a 2-up. And it says inflict amount of mortal damage on the target equals the roll. So does that mean you roll a d3 and on a 2-up you then roll a d6 to get your damage? Or do you roll a d6 and on a 2-up you deal that much damage? Interesting. I think because this specifically says mortal damage, I think you roll a d3 and then on a 2-up you get to roll a d6 for damage. Again, let me know in the comments below because I feel like this could have been worded a little bit better. And then also you get to add 1 if it's cavalry, right? So I mean, d6 damage is pretty good. So you'll want to be like throwing in, you know, your gruntas for this turn in particular, because you can spike this. If 3 grunta units go in and then you roll like 5 for damage, like adding, that's a lot of damage. This thing can spike. So that's pretty cool. What's that? Turn off my fan. Okay, Eaten on the Hoof. So this is once per battle army, any charge phase. So this is like a once per battle kind of thing again. So pick a friendly Grunta Stampede monster. So this is all of the big pigs that has not used a rampage ability this turn to use this ability. Then pick a visible enemy unit in combat with it to be the target. So this is pretty cool because the rampages, you can only use one of their type per turn. So like, for example, if we take the Tusk Boss, it says the rampage says once per turn army, right? The Maw Grunta once per turn army, and the Gouger once per turn army. So if you're running multiple Gougers, multiple Hacking Crews, multiple Tusk Bosses, which you most likely will, it means that you can only use each of their War Scroll rampages a single time. So what this is doing is it's giving you an additional rampage that you can do on any of your big pigs, so that you're getting a little bit more value. Super cool. Love the idea. So effect. Roll a die and add the momentum score of this unit to the roll. So your momentum caps out at 3, so it's a minimum. I think it's, if you charge in and do it, it's a minimum of 1, and then it's a maximum of 3. If the result exceeds the target's health characteristic, 1 model in the target unit is slain. So this is actually pretty impactful, because you get to pick which pig is using this rampage. You can pick a pig that has a bigger momentum score, specifically a Hacking Crew. A Hacking Crew has a built-in, I guess that's a rampage that it has, that uses, it's a rampage that lets it sort of build up its own momentum, so you can't combo it with that, unfortunately. But if you do have 3 momentum, it means that a Rock Gut has 5 health, or any other 5 health unit. It means you need to exceed it, so it means that if you have 3 momentum, on a 3-up, you remove a 5 health model. That's significant, right? On a 4-up, you can remove a 6 health model. So things like Croxagore, like these elite, like 40mm, 60mm base guys, is pretty relevant. And even like 3, like if it's a Brute, you need a 4-up with 0 momentum, but then every momentum that you have is going to reduce that. So if it's a Brute, you need on a 1, you exceed the health characteristic. So these abilities are pretty cool, and especially against like elite cavalry, right? Things like Slaves to Darkness. I can't remember what their cavalry's called, but they're scary. So it's pretty fantastic. So yeah, I mean, Eaten on the Hoof is actually a pretty strong ability. Let's carry on. Monstrous momentum. This is a passive. This one's also, I think, one of the better ones. Add the current battle round number to the move characteristic of friendly Grunta Stampede units. Every single unit in your army starts the game with +1 movement. Now, I mean, like, the Gouger moves 10. I think the Hacking Crew and the Tusk Boss also move 10. Yep, they also move 10. And then the Gore Gruntas have a movement speed of 9. So it means that you go from a movement speed of 9 to a movement speed of 10. And then on, like, in round 3, the big pigs are moving 13. Like, you're fast. You're fast. And so movement in an army like this is awesome. Movement in an army like this is fantastic. So being able to move like this is great. End of the first battle round. Here's another ability, Incessant Drive. Add 1 to the momentum scores of friendly Grunta units. So this is pretty cool because it means that if you get units stuck in on turn 1, it means that you're going to start the end of the first battle round like you're losing a momentum and then you're gaining 1 momentum. So this could also read that, you know, you don't lose momentum, but it's because end of the first battle round, this is when you lose your momentum. So if you have 0 momentum, do you start round 2 with 1, or do you gain 1 and lose 1 at the same time? Right, because like it says at the end of each battle round, subtract 1 from its momentum score. And this says, end of the first battle round, add 1 to the momentum score. So I like to, this is probably like, my guess is add 1, lose 1. So if you're at 0 momentum, you stay at 0 momentum. But if you're at 1 momentum, you stay at 1 momentum, right? It sort of seems to me like this rule would almost have been better as saying, do not remove 1 at the end of the first battle round, right? Because again, it's like +1. It has to work that way, right? Because there's no way you go from 0 to 1, but if you're at 2, you stay at 2, right? You're losing 1 and you're gaining 1 at the same time. So it's like you don't lose momentum right off the bat. So that's kind of cool. That's fine. Not hugely impactful, but still good. Right? It's like you're gonna go into your battle round 2 with a little bit more momentum across the board than you would have otherwise. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, like, yeah, like it's good. Okay, more battle traits. So one thing that's different from the straight up Iron Jaws, instead of having the 2 battle traits, Mighty Destroyers and the Iron Jaws Wa, it's like, look how many you have. So many battle traits. You have a Wa, you have a monstrous action, you're not losing momentum, you're gaining movement that increases every battle round, and there's still 2 more. Iron Jaws only have 2 rules, and the Grunta Stampede has 6 rules, right? So, I mean, Mighty Destroyers might be the best rule among them, but probably not in a big pig army. I think that Mighty Destroyers, I think, is better with like slow heroes, like more slow units, like Brutes, Ragers, Ardboys, right? Because they're so slow, being able to move like an extra 3, 6 in a battle round is impactful. But if you're already getting +1 move on the big pigs and the little pigs, I mean, I feel like that's pretty good already. So, okay, once per battle army. This is in the deployment phase. I love deployment phase abilities. So you get to do this once in the deployment phase. Pick a friendly Grunta Stampede hero to be the target. So this has to be a Tusk Boss. There's no other option for heroes in Grunta Stampede than Tusk Boss. For the rest of the battle, subtract 1 from hit rolls for shooting attacks that target that hero, while it is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly non-hero Grunta Stampede unit. So essentially what this means is you pick you probably pick your general, right? And then you stick a unit next to your general that probably isn't in the general's regiment for reasons we'll talk about later. And it just gets -1 to shooting. So this is sort of like Lookout Sir. It's like you get to pick your one of your heroes, and then it's like, well, they get Lookout Sir. And that's cool, right? It's not quite Lookout Sir, but -1 to shooting attacks is good. Right, you have no shooting in your army. You have not really any defense against shooting in your army. So this is a way that you can do it. One of your heroes is going to be kind of like have a Lookout Sir type ability, and that's cool. It's just something that's going to help negate one of the weaknesses of the army, which is to shooting. Right, it's a small little thing, but it's good. It's there. And then again, this is another ability once per battle army in the deployment phase, Fast and Furious. Pick a friendly, non-hero Grunta Stampede unit to be the target. The target can immediately use the normal move ability as if it were your movement phase. This is sick. Taking a Hacken crew and moving it 11 inches up the board is awesome. Any of your units moving in the movement phase. These are things like, if you're going first, which you probably are, or maybe you're not, but this is a way that you can like cap an objective before the game is even started. So if you're looking at most maps that have an objective that's placed in the center, what this allows you to do is take that objective with a unit before, even if your opponent is going first, before they've had a chance to act. This means that if they're doing something like this takes off of the table tactics like seize the center and take the flanks, because you're able to put units in the way of your opponent's taking these objectives. You can also use it in the deployment phase, and this is of course after every unit is on the table. So you get to see what the deployment is from yourself and from your opponent before deciding which unit to actually move. This is great. And again, it's so much move. It's not like, in Bone Splitters in 3rd edition had a thing, it was like move 5 inches or whatever it was, right? But this is just your movement, and your movement is fast. 11 inches on the big pigs, right? Or even just 10 inches with the little pigs. Like, you're pushing your models into the middle of the battlefield with this, or up the flanks to like take an objective. It'll also matter with things like control 1, 2 more. If your opponent's going first and the objectives are sort of in the middle and they're able to get more objectives than you, they can score 1, 2 more. But if you're able to sort of deny that by moving your models onto objectives, I think that can be pretty impactful. Movement in this game is really, really strong. Anything that lets you move. And so this is, a whole move in the movement phase. And if you are going first, you can move, like a Hack and Crew 11 inches and then move it another 11 inches before you even charge. So you're going to get where you're going. The reason I think that Hack and Crew is going to be the one, is going to be the best one here is because the Hack and Crew with its monstrous rampage lets it, move again. Like, it lets it retreat and move. And so I feel like getting him into a good position early is strong so that he can really he can exploit any deployment issues or any movement problems that your opponent has had by getting in and killing, like, their general or their wizards or things like this, right? So quite good, quite strong, big fan. Love you long time. Okay, what else we got? Yeah, quite interesting, quite interesting. And then so we have a heroic trait. So this goes on to a hero only. And then we have 1 artifact of power. And this goes again onto only a hero. And because the only hero that we can take is a Tusk boss, we're going to have to think of it in that context, right? It's going to have to be a Tusk boss. So Trophy Hunter. This unit's Pig Haka has anti-monster +1 rend and anti-war machine +1 rend. So this is, like, it's a small kind of buff. The Tusk boss. So the Pig Haka has 7 attacks, 4s to hit. So, definitely would like an all-out attack here. 2s to wound, so that's cool. And then against monsters and war machines, it's going to have 2 rend. So that extra rend is nice. You're definitely going to have 1 Tusk boss that is more of a monster killer, right? And maybe a war machine, but like a centerpiece killer. So that's pretty good. Ooh. And then the artifact of power. So this one is really interesting and really cool, and I like this. I had to double check, but so this is really neat. Okay, so it's a reaction. It's a little bit harder to understand because there's not a ton of abilities like this presently in 4th edition. So it's a reaction. So you declare a command. So all out attack, all out defense, redeploy, power through, right? Any command. You declare a command for a friendly Grunta Stampede unit, so any of your units, that's wholly within 18 inches of this unit. So if I give a command to any unit that's wholly within 18 inches of this unit, I get the following effect. Pick an enemy unit in combat with that friendly unit to be the target. So my Tusk boss is in the middle, and over to his right is a Hack and Crew, and I give the Hack and Crew all-out attack. Then as a reaction, I get to use this ability, and I get to do the following to a unit that's in combat with the Hack and Crew, right? But so the Hack and Crew has to be within 18 inches of the Tusk boss, and then I pick a target that's in melee, or that's in within 3 inches, that's in combat with the Hacking Crew. It's a 2-up D3. Every time you issue all-out attack, every time you issue all-out defense, every time you issue power through, you get to do a 2-up D3 if they're wholly within 18 inches of your general. So this general is definitely going to be sitting in the middle of the battlefield. Now you can put this artifact of power and the heroic trait on the same unit, or you can split them up in 2 different Tusk Boss and have every time I say Tusk Boss, it either sounds funny or I think I say it wrong every single time. Tusk Boss. Anyway, but it's a lot of damage over the course of a game. So if all you do is all-out attack and all-out defense with two units, you're going to be dealing, 2-up D3 4 times and 5 times if you're the underdog, as Franz Fuhlinger says in Discord. Thanks for all the insights too, by the way, everybody. Yeah, so I mean, it works really well with power through as well, right? Because it's just a little bit of extra damage and then you just get to like run away. So it's a lot of extra damage. These extra mortal wounds are, I think, pretty significant because mortal wounds are hard and Iron Jaws struggle with mortal wounds. And there's no, like, except for the impact mortals, right? There's no other mortal wound output. And so we also get D6 for mortal wound output instead of a D3. So like it starts to stack up, It starts to stack up. So those are all the rules. So what if we were to actually look at some lists? What do some lists look like? So here's a couple different lists. Now, there's really not a ton of options when we're talking about Grunta Stampede, right? Because we don't have a lot of actual tools to use, right? There's not really a lot of options. Let me see if I can just pull these numbers up here a little bit. So this is 11, sorry. And then this is 11. They're just quite small, right? The lists are quite small. Okay, so on the left here, we have a Grunta Stampede list. So our general is going to be a Tusk Boss, of course. And our Tusk Boss is going to be using the Daboom Skull. So remember, this is the one where when we issue commands to friendly units wholly within 18, they're going to do 2-up D3 mortals. So this is the Tusk Boss that we want to sort of keep safe until later in the game, because we want to be able to get as much value out of this artifact of power as possible. And this is sort of different from the Trophy Hunter, because the Trophy Hunter gives us this +1 Rend to monsters, and so we want to throw this on the other Tusk Boss so that we can, throw him at a monster or a war machine and get more value out of it. Okay, and so we have the 2 Tusk Boss with these 2 different artifacts, or one with the heroic trait and one with the artifact of power, and we're going to put them on 2 different units again because we're going to use them sort of differently, right? One's going to be more aggressive and one's going to sort of be more defensive and sit in the middle of the board so that we can get 2-up D3s before committing, like turn 4, turn 5, right? It's also another really tough thing too is that I think we only ever want to run 2 heroes. I think we just want to be a 2-drop. Right, it's going to be one of our advantages is that we can actually be a 2-drop army. But one of the things that's going to make it a little bit weaker is that we have a lot of units in our general's regiment. So we have to be very careful about where our general's regiment's units are going to be going, and we need to try to make sure that they're not going to die, right? And then we're also going to throw on the general most of the time. Like, you get to make this decision in deployment, but during the deployment phase, when we get to pick, our wall of Hogflesh to give -1 shooting against one of our heroes, we're probably also going to put it on the Tusk Boss that is the general, just because we're trying to keep that general alive. Okay, so on the list on the left, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 big pigs. This is a list where we are maximizing the number of big pigs in the list, if that's your style. So the only thing that we only have 1 unit of Gruntas, and he's only 190 points, but everything else is a big pig. We have 2 Hack and Crews, and then we have 3 Gougers. So the Gougers, at least a couple of them, are going to sort of hang out with the Tusk Boss and escort him. Because the Tusk Boss, when he charges in, gives these Gougers more momentum, which is good. So we have like a little squad in that regard, right? A Tusk Boss and a couple of Gougers. And then we have a couple Hacking Crews, which I still think are going to be strongest on the flanks because of their rampage. And then a unit of Gruntas, which are going to sort of hang out in the back. Now, again, these Gruntas for 190 points are in the General's Regiment. So we're going to try our best to keep them alive. And we're going to put the Hacking Crews in the General's Regiment because they're harder to kill. Right, they're on a 3-up, and they have more movement. And so if there's one with like 1 HP left, we're going to be able to maybe like reposition it so that our opponent can't kill the next turn and score an easy battle tactic. That's kind of the idea, right? You know, because we need to try to keep our general and the regiment alive. So in this, you know, these 3 Gruntas are not really going anywhere. Actually, this could probably be reinforced. A reinforced unit of Gruntas, I think, makes a lot more sense here. Uh-oh, what just happened? Nothing. What's, so that's 380? Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about it, right? You're going to have, like, your Hacking Crews doing their things. I think they're going to be on the flanks. They're going to be trying to score those tactics, right? Take the flanks and taking objectives deep in your opponent's line, right? They're going to be trying to take what's theirs. You know, that's kind of what they're going to be doing off on the flanks. And then in the middle, you can probably throw like Gougers and the Tusk Boss right up the center. And then, you know, you still have like some Gruntas and another Gouger hanging out and doing their thing. But overall, like, pretty simple to build, pretty simple to play. Okay? And then this other list that I have, I would like to throw a big shout out and a big thank you to Killian in the Discord. He's an amazing player, very, very good. Probably the best Grunta Stampede, definitely the best Grunta Stampede player that I've ever talked to. And has shown me the best Grunta Stampede list that I've ever seen in my life, ever. Just an amazing person, just amazing player. Godfather to my children. Okay, so it's a little bit different because here we're running more units of Gruntas. Now I just changed this to be a unit of Gruntas, like 6, but this is not like this doesn't have to be the case. I'm just sort of thinking that it might be better to like to do something like this, but you can mess around with the general and the regiments, and either you're going to run 3 units of Gruntas or 2 units of Gruntas where one of them is reinforced. But like I said, we're not going with max big pigs this time. We're going with something a little bit different. I think some of my math has gone bad here. Yeah, this is supposed to be 11. Okay, so here we're at 1980 points, so we're almost all the way maxed out. So the 2 Tusk Bosses are the same. They're going to both have the same enhancements on them, and the big difference in this list here is that it runs 3 Hacking Crews and 3 Gruntas. So we're way heavier on the best of the big pigs, right? We're gonna have 3 of the best big pig, and no Gougers, none. So our General's Regiment is a Tusk Boss with the skull and 2 Hacking Crews. And then our other regiment is the Tusk Boss with reinforced Gruntas, a Hacking Crew, and another unit of Gruntas. To be honest, now that I'm kind of thinking about it a little more, this might actually just be better if our General's Regiment has all of the Hacking Crews, and then the Gruntas are like MSU, like there's 3 of them, right? So 3 Hacking Crews, 3 units of Gruntas, and 2 Tusk Bosses. And we're going to be using these Tusk Bosses in the exact same way that we were before, right? We have more like a strike squad, right? But in this case, it's going to be with Gruntas, so we're going to have a lot more impact, mortal wounds, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Like I kind of dig it. So if you're out there and you're playing Iron Jaws, and I know and I understand that Iron Jaws are in a difficult spot right now, and I think that it's gonna, like, the army is in a position where after some buffs, like some point decreases specifically, I think that Iron Jaws is an army that can be good, you know, but we'll talk about that in another video. So let me know in the comments below how this is going. You should definitely join the Discord. If you want to support the channel, do so on Patreon. And if you're not going to do either of those things, that's cool. But like, subscribe, and wah.